Hi, my name is Mai. It's actually pronounced Mai. Yeah, no, it's spelled May. So I spent the last few years living in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and yeah, I know, I hate me too. And the last year there, especially the last 6 months, I just started hating my life, and I was also just like, stopped being attracted to anyone whatsoever, stopped dating completely. And I was just like, I miss the guys in the US with their soft flannel shirts, and everyone in Israel had just like really crunchy kind of shirts with like tacks instead of buttons. Like anyone who's been to the Middle East knows what I'm talking about. And I was just like, I'm done with this place, I'm moving back to the US. Yeah. And but on the way back here, on the way back to the US, I was like, I'm just gonna go to Southeast Asia for a few months, because why not? And I spent most of my time in Thailand and Cambodia. And as soon as I got there, it was like the fog had lifted. I was like in a world of like a Lisa Frank poster. It was like butterflies were chirping. And like dogs were frolicking, hearts were just bouncing around dolphins. And I was like rock climbing. I was traveling alone, so I had all these adventures. I was like rock climbing and scuba diving and just having a blast. And I was also like attracted to literally everyone I met. And it was crazy. And one night I was in Siem Reap in Cambodia, and I somehow went to a brostel, like a bro hostel, with a bunch of drunk 18-year-old British dudes, or lads, as they call them. And I was just, I guess I can't judge too hard because I was there too, but when you travel alone, you just end up places. They had like a beer pong table, and they were playing like Matchbox 20, and that song that's like, come my lady, come my lady, I'm a butterfly, sugar, baby. Like that's what was happening that night. And out of the corner of my eye, though, I saw this guy who was like pale and skinny and had a big beard and like an explorer hat, like a wide-brimmed hat. And I was like, this guy looks cool. This guy's different. He's not a drunk 18-year-old, I think. And I went up to him, and we ended up talking all night, and like some other stuff happened, whatever. And I ended up spending 4 days with him, and really, I loved it. I was so into him. He was this guy from New Zealand, a Kiwi bloke. No names. And he was like, the reason I liked him so much is he had been traveling around the world, like climbing mountains and doing all this extreme shit, but he also had his stuff really together. He was a geologist who was going around the world looking for minerals, as he called them. And he was like, he had a real job, yet he was really adventurous and just doing his own thing. And he grew up on a farm with sheep, and he had an identical twin, and they wore overalls, and it was just adorable. And when you're traveling, so basically, like, I became so obsessed with him that if there was like a Tiger Beat magazine New Zealand version, it would be like pictures of Flight of the Conchords and this dude, and I'd like hang it up all over my room. And but I guess for younger members of the audience, because I asked my sister, she said she didn't know what Tiger Beat was. If there was a Tumblr called Fuck Yeah Kiwi Guys, it would just be like pictures of this dude with his beard, and I would follow that Tumblr. That's what I'm trying to say here for the younger members. And what was great, especially for me after this long period of depression in Israel, it's like, also when you're traveling alone, you do everything by yourself. But me and this guy spent 4 days together doing everything together, and just, you get to a really high level of intimacy that way very quickly. And he told me his whole life story. He had actually had cancer twice as a teenager, and while he had cancer and was like dying, his parents divorced. And he had this really horrible life story, and I think that's why he was so isolated and traveling alone for so long. And I felt like, we got really close, and we talked about a lot of things, whatever, I won't bore you with those details. And then, you know, it was time to say goodbye. I was kind of at the end of my trip, and he was like, but I don't even have any of your contact information. And I was like, oh, that's okay, I'll add you on Facebook. And I did, and I uploaded all these cute pics of us together, like on all our adventures and our hikes and all the, like, cool fields we went to and whatever. And then, wait, where was I? Yes, okay, that happened. And then I went, sorry. And then I was expecting this future of me, like, liking his Facebook posts and like, occasionally saying hey on Facebook chat, and like, if I'm ever in New Zealand, I'd give him a call and he would take me on some cool hike to a mountain or something. And then I noticed a few days later, I was back in the US, and I noticed that he hadn't replied to my friend request. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I think he's in Laos right now, and he, like, doesn't even have internet access, and he's a world traveler, so whatever. Like, of course he hasn't been on Facebook yet. But then I clicked on his profile, and I noticed that day he had added 6 people, and not me. So he basically went through his request and was like, yes, yes, ignore to me. And I was devastated. I was like, who is this guy? Did I even know this guy? Did he even have cancer? Has he ever like, met a sheep? What the fuck? Did he even have an identical twin, or was it a fraternal twin? Who is this guy? Did he even like me at all? I was pissed. So I decided, whatever, I sent him a nice message just in case he pressed ignore accidentally. He did not respond to the cool message. And now, you know, it's 2 months later, I'm slowly rebuilding my life here in the US. And yet, you know, 2 months later, my Facebook request goes ignored. My message goes unanswered, and all those beautiful pictures of us, they remain untagged. Thank you.